Hello, everyone, and welcome back to My Opinion. And today I'll be talking about day two of the India versus England Test match at Lords. And the reason why I'm talking about day two, even though day three is currently going on, is because I was actually there in the flesh. So it was yesterday. So the last time I went to Lords was, I think, about 8 or 9 years ago, and it was for an MCC game, and I wasn't there for very long. But yeah, there weren't many people in the stadium that day, and I didn't really know much about cricket. I only just pretty much got into it, so I didn't really understand how much of an occasion it was, but I only knew that it was the home of cricket. But now going there, with 10 years of following cricket, and especially in this kind of an occasion with India and England playing, I was very excited, and so it was a great viewing experience. And me, I mean, I didn't mind who kind of even I don't mind who wins because I live in England and I was born in India, but I still have a bit of a bias towards India in an India versus England encounter. So I wanted us to seize the day, and yeah. So how it went was India were 276 for three in from the previous day's play, and the reason why I only thought we'd score 373 max because two reasons. Shardul Thakur was injured for this test, so we brought Ishan Sharma in. Now, in a bowling front, that's a huge upgrade. But in even though Shardul Thakur, I thought he bowled well in that first test. Still with the pedigree of Ishan Sharma and the threat that he brings with the extra height he has, it is an upgrade. But in batting, it definitely isn't an upgrade because despite the fact that Ishan Sharma has scored a 50 against the West Indies, the way that Shardul Thakur saved the Test match in Australia and got India, India could only have got in a position of winning it because of him and Washington Sundar. So his batting ability, he has come in T20s and ODIs and hit the ball around. So he does have the superior batting ability, and so him not being there meant that India effectively didn't have anyone after number seven. And I know the tail wagged, but you can't rely on that all. I'm talking about the previous game. You can't rely on that all the time. So effectively, after Jadeja at seven, there's no one else to bat. And also, the fact is that Asian teams are very collapse prone when they go overseas, and so because in that regard, as an Indian fan, watching our team play when they go overseas, you can never quite get comfortable because it's always around the corner when one wicket falls, and especially with the batting up. But as I said, there's always been a question of whether our tail can add runs. It's a reason why you can never really take your position for granted. And that's the reason why, if you combine those two things, with Rishabh Pant and Jadeja being only, the recognized batsman after the number five, that's the reason why it didn't add up to even like a 400 score. And they got 364 in the end, so only 9 runs off. And the thing is, I think India did have an opportunity to get more. I think that I wasn't surprised that there were partnerships there, especially when Jadeja came in, and with the vein of form he's been in since scoring that 86 not out in the 2018 series, I wasn't surprised that he played well. And yeah, I actually felt like after losing Rahul and Rahane in six balls within, I think they lost them two within the first 2 overs of the day's play, and Rahul in the second ball of the day's play, in fact. So, considering we lost those two very quickly, I thought that it would be very hard for us to even get to 320. But Pant and Jadeja, I thought that they stayed the ship well, and at one point I think this partnership actually lasted for 49 runs. Um, yeah, I think it lasted for quite a while. I think like 49 runs. It was 282 for five, and then it was 331 for five, and then the wicket fell. So it actually lasted us quite a while. And then Rishabh Pant got out caught behind, and then we never really expected anything more from that because I thought that, considering the frailties in the England batting lineup, even them getting 300 would be a bit difficult. Now it's proving my statement's kind of been proving wrong so far, but the thing is, I thought that yesterday I thought that we'd already got enough runs on the board, and whatever we got from there was a bonus. And considering we got 40 runs from a tail that you aren't confident in their batting ability, I think that 373 is a 33 runs after 331. So 364 as a first inning score, I thought was pretty good. Then England came out to bat, and before I talk about them, Anderson got a fifer, and also in person, Ollie Robinson bowled very well. I thought even ever since he's been opening the bowling since day one of this Test match, I honestly think that he could open the bowling in Australia. And I know Archer's injured, but England would feel slightly disappointed because they could have potentially, amidst all the thing that what are they going to do in Australia, they could have had the attack, or at least three of them, of Ollie Robinson, Jofra Archer, and Mark Wood. And that looks very good because they can, they have. Ollie Robinson's not overly quick, but he's quick enough. And Jofra Archer and Mark Wood are express. And I think that they'll have the tools, at least within those three anyway. And if maybe Anderson plays as well, just to use whatever there'll be of the new ball, I think they'll have the tools to, compete as far as their pace bowling ranks are concerned. But since Archer's not on the plane, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who plays. And coming back to this game, I thought that India would have been looking to capitalize on especially two bowlers, Sam Curran and Moeen Ali. And the thing is, I thought both of them, especially I saw in the flesh, Joe Root put fielders out when Moeen Ali was bowling to Rishabh Pant and Jadeja, but Rishabh Pant was more likely to take the spinner on. And he couldn't, because Moeen Ali bowled so that he couldn't take him on, and also, the fielders were on the boundary rope. And not that Rishabh Pant would care about that too much, but definitely in the first aspect, Moeen Ali did bowl well to ensure that India didn't try and size him up. And Sam Curran, he bowled, he kind of bowled like this floaty pace on a length, and the only thing, they were all blockable balls. You had to block those. So honestly, I thought both of those two did well to make sure that they didn't bowl the boundary balls that India were probably looking for at that stage to really accelerate and get to 400. And yeah, I thought that was the English bowling. 364 India probably would have liked to have got more, but I wasn't surprised that they didn't get more. Now England batting. So the thing about Dom Sibley and Rory Burns, and when the fact is that they've both scored hundreds in previous games, and the thing is, I'm not in this series, but I'm talking about like in their career so far. And the thing is that with the way they bat as well, it shows that they are good players, especially seeing in the flesh and seeing in they rate against New Zealand as well. I thought they left the ball well when I saw yesterday, and they had to deal with, for me, the harder form of bowling, because you look at James Anderson and Stuart Broad when he's bowling, or Ollie Robinson, and two things play into context here. One, the confidence of the Indian openers was undoubtedly higher than the English ones, and two, the type of bowling they face. When you face someone like James Anderson, yes, it's very hard to play, but you feel like you have more time and it's less irregular. When the ball is swinging away, you can see it swinging away, you can leave it. Whereas the thing about Jasprit Bumrah is that, him bowling with the new ball, he gets the ball to seam away. And so it's a nightmare to play. I thought Dom Sibley did very well. I thought both of them did very well to survive the opening burst, because people say Dom Sibley doesn't have shots apart from just blocking. He doesn't do much else. But the fact is, it's been harder for the England openers to score because of the bowling they faced. It's been easier for the Indian openers to score, not only because they're more confident, but you have a bit more breathing space. Despite how good Anderson is, you have a bit more breathing space when facing him than facing Bumrah, because seaming is alright. I've heard them talking on commentary where you can look how they're holding the ball at release point, but even then, it can be unpredictable the way the ball seems, and you have to do well to negotiate it. And I thought both the openers did that, and the reason why they didn't lose a wicket going into tea. So I know that, alright, the criticism is that they don't get many runs, and Sibley would have been disappointed by his dismissal because it wasn't a great ball from Siraj, but he was caught by at short mid wicket, and I think this was two balls after into the final session, and that's the thing, is that both of those two, the criticism is that they don't score enough runs, especially Sibley. But the fact is, as far as so far in this series is concerned, and their batting formula in general, it's a very good batting formula, and especially in this series, they've had to face, I think, the harder bowling to face. So honestly, yes, they would like, especially Sibley would like a few more runs, but I can understand why he batted the way he did. And honestly, if it was someone who looked to be a bit more expansive, maybe they would have had less restraint and gotten out. So honestly, I think that both of those two, England, they all right. It looks a bit brittle, their batting lineup, but I think that it's heading in the right direction with the way that these two bat. If they just get a few more runs, then I think it could be quite good. Then straight after Dom Sibley got out, then Ms. Mohammad Siraji got the wicket, and the very next ball, Hasib Hamid, who I saw 4 years ago, he scored 82 against India, and he looked very good then. And he came back, and so I thought, I hope that he would do well. But unfortunately, he played around a straight one. And yeah, it was 23 for 2, and England were in trouble again. And then, quite frankly, I think out of the Fab Four, Joe Root right now is the best hands down. Because especially, you can even look at the innings in this series, right? They probably wouldn't have drawn the game without his contributions of 173 runs in both innings combined, and now I think he's on 90 odd as well. So, and especially when I saw him batting yesterday in the flesh, I mean, he was flawless. And the reason why, they took 2 reviews, which the thing about sitting in the stands and watching TV is that, those things, those shouts that will probably be going down the leg side when you see them on TV, they look out. And so Virat Kohli actually reviewed some LBW appeals twice, because even though they were going down the leg side in both of them, and we only saw, as a spectator, I only saw they were going down when they put them on the big screen. I understand why he did it, because it is Joe Root. And honestly, when you see him bat, when you see how much at ease he is against pace and spin, he's not weak to anything. And for 2 reasons. One, he's that good of a player that, he can bat for hours and days, so you have to get him out. And 2, with this England batting out, they rely pretty much solely on him, even when Ben Stokes is in the team. I know he's in the team now, but even when he is in the team, they rely on Joe Root to get the bulk of the runs, and everyone bats around him. And the thing is, because no one else gets that many big scores. They get, a 30 and get out. So for that, you need someone who bat time and score a lot of runs, which Joe Root does. Especially off late. There was a thing about his conversion rate before, but then now, I think even that debate's gone. And I think that, right now, the Fab Four, he is the best batsman by far. I'm making him, I think he's the best batsman in the world, honestly, right now. And he was at ease against pace and the 4 seamers that India bowled, and also Jadeja as well, he bowled towards the end of the day's play. And I thought that it was an education to see him bat, because despite the fact I wanted India to get the wicket for their own position in the test match, for me, seeing Kohli go out the previous day, to get my money's worth, I wanted to see Joe Root bat, because it's an education to see him bat on TV. And it was, an education to see him bat. I keep putting the word in the flesh, because it's another player who I'll get to where there's so much more you can gather from watching him in the flesh than on TV. So that was Joe Root. And then now Bumrah, that's the other player. So looking at his run-up, he doesn't have a long run-up at all, because he walks for at least about a quarter of his run-up he walks. And then he has that kind of this hopping, unorthodox run-up, which we all know, and we know everyone knows what the action looks like and everything. But seeing how he does it in real life, because at points you'd think he's a spinner, and then yet he bowls on the speed gun. On the scorecard they show the speed as well. I mean, the English bowlers generally bowled faster than the Indian bowlers. The Indian bowler's speed was around about that 86 mile an hour mark. It isn't slow by any means, but it isn't express. So they bowled that kind of a range, the Indian seamers, and it was just seeing how accurate Bumrah is, and he didn't bowl a bad ball or even a half scoreable ball at all in his opening about 4 overs or so. And it was just to see. It's just him and Jofra Archer. So the thing is, I see with both of them that Jofra Archer is kind of managed in. People say the kind of the things about fast bowling, the way the whole brace front leg, and kind of the snapping your arm kind of thing. And because he does that so well, sometimes when he's looking to bowl really fast, he does he does charge in, but even then it looks to be effortless, because he's mastered this mechanism, mastered the basics so well that it seems like he can effortlessly bowl express. Now with Bumrah, the reason why it's even more surprising is because he doesn't have a quick run up, and he walks for a quarter of the way. As I said, you'd think he's a spinner if you saw him in part of that run up, but yep, with an unorthodox action, he manages to get such pace. And I don't know how he managed to do it, and he was so accurate as well, as I said. So yeah, I think that as far as bowlers, best in the world by far. And I think that people would say Pat Cummins in tests is the number one, but the thing is, I just think the versatility of Bumrah is pretty much unmatched by any other bowler. And that was those two. I enjoyed watching both of those two play. And England finished on 119 for 3 at the end of the day's play, with Rory Burns getting out on 49 to Mohammad Shami, and he deserved his 50 because he played very well. There was this one cover drive he hit as well. And before I finish up on their batting, they shouldn't have ended up in that position, but there was this one Siraj over where Rory Burns hit him for 3 fours, and he was on 19 of 70 something, so he clearly was blocking for a while, and then Siraj bowled that over and he got 12 runs off it. Now then the next over, Ishant Sharma bowled to Joe Root, and after the first 2 balls there were 8 runs. And what I'm trying to say is, the bowling standard, while there were quite a few good balls, there were too many boundary balls. And this is the reason why this whole Sibley criticism and everything, because when he was batting, they were virtually unplayable what he was facing, whereas when Joe Root was batting, there were too many boundary balls. And I remember, I think he was on 2, and then he got 2 boundaries and he got himself away. I think there was some leg stump half volley. This was before, he was on 2 and there was some leg stump half volley, and he got 2 boundaries and he got himself away to 10 off 18. And straight away you saw how hard Burns and Sibley had to work for their runs, and then they bowled 2 tardy balls, and now Joe Root is on 10 off 18. And a confident Joe Root with the pedigree that he has, obviously it's not good for the opposition. And so I think that amongst his criticism, it's just the fact that I think that the openers in England have generally, they face the more difficult bowling than the middle order do. So amongst the criticism, I think that definitely does have to, that notion definitely has to be there, because it is definitely harder to bat for the openers with the bowling they face than the middle order, because for some reason, even today, for example, what England I saw were 218 for 3. India sometimes don't really seem to sustain it all the way through. And that was a great viewing experience though. And I think that it was a great viewing experience. And the thing is, I never thought I'd see this, but for the first time I actually saw a streaker while being there. So Zaki Berry, I don't get the timing of this, because it was when everyone, the players had gone off. It was the end of the day's play, and everyone was getting ready to leave the ground, the spectators and everything. And then we see this. I saw this security guard running, and in the end, it's some streaker, and they're all running after him. And then he went to the boundary on, I think so, if there's a right hand batsman, he went to the boundary, the mid wicket boundary, and then for some reason he tripped over, I don't know what, but then that gave the guards an opportunity to surround him. He still almost got away. He got back up to his feet. He almost took a turn away, but then for some reason he couldn't complete it, and then the guards caught him, and then he was escorted out. So that was also something where I never thought that would happen either, but it was a very good day's cricket to watch. I talked to quite a few people around me. They were mostly England fans, and it was a great day to watch. It was good for, it was good socially, and it was good cricket wise, and it was at the home of cricket. So I thoroughly enjoyed this day. And the thing is, the tickets didn't come cheap. It cost, from the website, it cost about £165 each, because my brother also was sitting in the rows behind me, and I was sitting in the rows below him, towards ground level. And it was actually a great experience, and that was my day at Lord's. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours? India bowled out 364.